want to help the environment, so it does not feel good to put things in the trash can. But sometimes that feeling prevents us from letting go of objects that we need to get out of our home. And it prevents us from learning some very important lessons. I'll break down these surprising lessons in this video, so stay tuned. I'm Dara. I help people live a more minimalist lifestyle so they can focus on what matters most without getting overwhelmed along the way. If you'd like to live a simpler life, stay tuned and subscribe for more videos like this one. Minimalism, to me, always includes sustainability. In fact, one of the most wonderful benefits of minimalism is that it allows you to live a more sustainable lifestyle. So it might surprise you to learn that worrying too much about what you put in the trash can sometimes be a bit problematic. This typically happens when we hold on to something that nobody in our friend group or our family members want, can't donate it, and we can't sell it, so we just keep it even though it will end up in the landfill anyway. I call this Landfill Purgatory, and I will explain to you how to get out of it. I'll also break down some of the confusion around recycling and why it's a little bit more complicated than you might think. In the end, you'll have more clarity and feel empowered to do what's right. Let's do a review of what things you need on hand during your downsizing process. Create an area in your home for the following in the form of a box or a bin or a bag. Just make sure to properly label them. General donations, specialty donations, places that only take very specific types of donations, things to give other people, specialty recycling, and I'll talk more about that in a bit, items to fix and mend, and then items to sell. Now you may break these categories up into more specific subsections, like if there's certain people or places that you want to go to. This is a really important tip. Of those categories I listed, you want most of them to be available all of the time, not just when you're downsizing, because that's going to prevent you from being in a situation where you're like, oh, I just have this one battery that doesn't work anymore, so I'm just going to leave it with the other batteries and it's going to get mixed up and I won't know which ones are used or not used. You'll have a place in household hazardous waste that's usually a specialty recycling type of item, and that bin or box will just always be there so you know exactly where it goes. So when you're all set up like this, it'll be much easier to deal with these next pieces. So the first one is Landfill Purgatory. You might find yourself dealing with items you don't really want to put in the trash and that you end up keeping anyway. Our stuff gets into Landfill Purgatory actually because of a set of steps that happens way before we get to the downsizing process. It usually begins with items we accept without thinking. So these are items that are like freebies. They might have a function, but only sort of. They might be things that we took from somebody else who didn't want to put them in the trash. These may also be things that were damaged or broken or are out of date to an extent that they would be difficult to fully repair and be reused. So that's the first bit. We've let these things into our home. Or we've let these things into our home and we let them deteriorate. We didn't take care of them. We let them get outdated before giving them away when they could have still been used. This happens a lot with electronics. So now we're at the point where we have all these things and we pick them up and we're like, I don't know where this goes. If you didn't set up all those other bins, you might not know that your alternative isn't the landfill, it's actually something that could be recycled, or maybe something that could be donated to, let's say, a women's shelter. Sometimes they take opened bath and beauty products, so that might be something you would keep because you didn't want to throw away and waste it, but you'll never use it. But again, you might be holding this and not really fitting into any of those other categories. So then you think, well, I feel bad. I don't want to be somebody who throws things away, especially if it was once valuable, or if you can concoct some sort of idea where maybe you might use it someday. You just don't want to put it in the trash can. And so you keep it and you think that that is somehow being helpful. And I appreciate that. Your heart is in the right place, but all you've done is delayed the inevitable. And that inevitable might come at a time where you can deal with it really easily. Chances are it won't. It'll come when you're about to move. Some people keep things for decades and decades, and they're there until they no longer have the capacity to deal with them, or they pass away, and then whoever takes care of their estate then has to take care of it. So although we do everything we can to prevent these items from coming into our home, and then we do everything we can to responsibly let the items go that we no longer need, sometimes we're going to be in this situation. And the best thing you can do is to train yourself to identify where you are in this continuum. And if you're at that point where an item needs to go in the trash can, you have to put it in the trash can. But if it helps at all, you're actually doing something good when you put it in the trash can. It's this weird thing where you putting it in the trash can feels bad, and the next time you go to pick up something else that you know will inevitably go into the trash can, maybe you'll think about it differently. Then you're gonna start to realize that every time you bring something into your home, you have a much greater responsibility than maybe you even realized. Because again, we're just like, things are thrown at us even when we don't want things. We just accumulate things. By taking that time to put it in the trash can and thinking, how did this item get in my home in the first place? You may rethink decisions in the future about what you bring in the home. And then you also are thinking about, I don't want to have this feeling again, so I'm going to prevent this from happening. Part and parcel to landfill purgatory is wishful recycling. So just like we don't want to put something in the trash can, we do want to put something in the recycling bin. But the problem is, a lot of items we want to think are recyclable actually aren't. And keep in mind that recycling isn't really helping the environment. It's not preventing anything bad from happening. It's just a sort of less bad solution. So if you needed to buy that plastic water bottle, you were out traveling, your reusable wasn't there, that's fine, buy it, recycle it. That's the best that you can do in that situation. But there are a lot of types of plastics and a lot of other types of items that people throw in their curbside recycling pickup that actually don't get recycled by their community recycling center. Sort of like the landfill purgatory, where we're avoiding confronting our waste. Wishful recycling is not only doing that, but we're actually creating some trouble for the recycling center itself and the people that work there. And occasionally this can even be a little bit dangerous for them if we're talking about things like broken glass or scrap metal, etc. So just to review, we buy things thinking it's okay because it can be recycled. When the truth is, it's better not to even need to recycle the item in the first place, or to buy the item at all. Recycling is only available for certain items. Not all items sent to a recycling center actually get recycled due to things like contamination or other problems during the recycling process. So clearly, one thing you need to do now is look up what items are accepted at your recycling center for recycling pickup so that you can handle that aspect of it and not put in wishful recycling. And then I think you'll notice, pay attention over time, when you're doing that correctly, do you feel like you're creating a lot more waste than you realized? Pay attention to that and make some changes, maybe switching to reusables or just buying less. And then also research if there are any drop-off points in your community for other types of recycling, like batteries, like light bulbs. To review the steps to this wishful recycling problem, avoid buying things that can't be recycled or reused. Look up the details of what curbside recycling your locality accepts. Paste these details somewhere you can easily refer to them. Look up what specialty recycling items your locality also accepts, and post this list on your specialty recycling bin. And finally, always follow the adage, when in doubt, throw it out. When it comes down to it, we don't want to put anything in the landfill. If we can't give them away, we may try to recycle them even if they can't actually be recycled, or we just keep them. Either way, we're delaying the inevitable and not learning really important lessons and information about recycling in our community. This isn't helpful to us, our homes, or the planet. It's more important to prevent it from coming into your possession in the first place. And that's the way you stay out of landfill purgatory and wishful recycling and live a more minimalist lifestyle. For more information about minimalism and making your life easier, don't forget to subscribe and click the bell to be notified when a new video releases.